testing the mic, so let's see if you hear. Just send a very quick message. Live now, can you hear me? If anyone can hear me, just reply on YouTube and we'll make sure it's working. Roy, can you hear me yet? Sound check. We'll check. Okay, so I'll just keep waffling until Roy arrives. Let's not officially start things, but just make sure it's working first. Lest I spend 10 minutes talking to myself. Any good, Roy? Can you hear anything at all? Ah, we have confirmation. Okay, I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, what we can do is turn the volume of the mic up. We can turn the music down as well, if that helps. Yeah, give me a bit of help here, Roy, if you can. Music, that's already quite low. Master volume down. So if you can't hear me now, I'll have to turn my mic volume up to max probably. How's that sound? Actually looks quite good on the little sound indicator there. Okay, so while we wait for the grid to gather in the lobby, I'm just going to keep checking the mic, annoyingly. How's that sound, Roy? Unfortunately, we're going to get one stab at this because we're all very busy and it comes down to the last few minutes. Okay, here we go. We are starting with probably the smallest grid we've had in MVP. This is from round 10. We're here at Cota, the United States Grand Prix, coming into the final stages of the MVP Championship. Now, the closest battle for the championship right now is between Hamby Little and also Ethan. And Ethan isn't here this weekend. It is an opportunity for Hammy to capitalise with points, which, due to the size of the grid, means that he will be able to get points as long as he finishes. Quite a treacherous track to jump on board with Hammy himself. So all he has to do is hold everything together, complete the race, stay in one piece, take the points, and he will, with just 2 rounds left after this Grand Prix, he will be in front, or remain in front rather, of Ethan in the championship. For the first time this season, we've got our Scottish compadre Cammy. He's here racing the McLaren, standing in for Roy and or Swampy, and no doubt he'll be looking to do the team proud. Albeit in a League of MVP we don't give out points to the team with reserve drivers, but I think we should, and I always have. So here's my opportunity to say it. So meanwhile, we've got Smidge in the pits. We've got Smidge's hosting this race, so big thanks to him this week for hosting, sorting everything out while Roy is away. But we can ride on board with Hammy and just see how he's feeling in preparation for today's qualifying event in the wet. So there we go, coming up to the final corner, taking quite a lot of curve on the entry. Nice and straight as he gets on the power into the first straight, going up to turn 1. It's a big uphill. You can be late on the brakes here. He's come in nicely. He's taken just a perfect amount of curb on entry and exit, heading up to turn 2 now. The next 3 turns between 3 and 6 are somewhat moulded around the Maggots and Beckett's corner compilation of Silverstone, and obviously a really challenging corner section really early on in the lap. We've got Dino's here for the live stream, seems to be here every week, so appreciated to you, mate, for being here. And yeah, so I think the question came down to where is Josh and David. Unfortunately, the two aren't here this weekend, haven't been for the last couple of races. It's unknown when they'll be back. I think, unfortunately, here we are, League of MVP, trying to tackle the issues with the F124 game. Obviously, a dramatic number of players haven't turned up for this season, and nobody's really loving it, but here we go with 9 hardcore individuals that still want to see the championship through. A massive appreciation to them for keeping the league alive, because as it stands, we certainly need more numbers. And Hammy comes through now to complete his lap. Right, apologies. So I was just trying to get the comments up on YouTube here. So we've got Roy saying wet quality interesting. We've got David and Josh have been out of it lately. David says he might join next Sunday again, so hopefully we'll see him back. Not sure about Josh. He obviously wasn't happy with some of the things that happened earlier in the league, or earlier in the season this time around, and has opted to stay out of it really. So there you go. Yeah, and definitely a shout out to Cammy, to be fair. Good call, Roy. So here we are, we've got Unbeaten has decided to go out on the Inters. He is doing 3/10, oh well, actually 1.3 seconds faster than Supernova at the time. Hammy also on the Inters posted a much faster time, so it appears that although everyone started on the wet tyres, the intermediates are the tyre to be on right now. The top 3 runners all on the green banded rubber. And yeah, certainly, as Roy says there, shout out to Cammy for making his return as a reserve for the race. I said that earlier, and yeah, massively appreciated to see him in there, making up the numbers. You know, it's a shame where it's at the minute, but even so, we've got some close. We've got some drivers of very similar ability here, so I'm confident for some good races. It'll be interesting to know if the rain's going to continue into the race. I'm sure we'll see that shortly. And here we go. I'll just try and get a little bit of lap data up there for you. In Sector 2, we'll keep an eye on Sainz lap. He is a second faster going into Sector 2 than his already best time, so the track is really ramping up here. Cammy obviously a little bit out of practice, but we've got Dino really cheering on him on here. Cammy's been out of it for a while, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can get up to speed with the guys that have been racing all season. I tell you what though, we've got more attendance. We've got more attendance in the YouTube channel right now than we have on the grid. But hey, that's what it's like. Hammy now slips into first, so he's not just going for a finish here, and all he needs really in the grand scheme of things is points. He's actually out to make a statement. Hammy wants people to know that if he wins this championship, he's doing it on merit, not by the fact that others have dropped out halfway through the season. And I believe it would have been a massive challenge for anyone that has raced MvP over the years to beat that man. He's really going for it. Sign, of course, in the Haas manages to just relentlessly be up there in the leading positions, so that's great to see. Surprising that no one else yet has swapped from the wets. Supernova here going very slowly, letting Cammy through. And Cammy's still on the wet tyres. I don't know why anyone's still on the wet tyres, to be honest, but let's see. We've got Prime's gone into the pits. Let's see if when he comes out on his Inters. Thomas, Sector 1, down on time. He's just on his out. Well, he's actually on a hot lap by the looks of things. And oh, in Sector 1, less than a tenth down on Hammy's time. So he obviously thinks the track is going more towards the wets right now. And yeah, obviously we've got Roy saying that with him and Sondre away this week, that is another 2 drivers out of the running. We've got some of the guys who were the front runners in previous championships of League of MVP not racing this weekend. Obviously Mark, lazy bit talented, and his teammate. We've got AJ not here, Josh not here, David not here. So you know, this is just where we're at. But hats off to these guys for showing up all season and getting down to racing, which is something we obviously all love. First 4 drivers in the pits, the first 3, still the intermediate tyres seem to be doing better. It's curious, but we'll stay with Thomas and just see if he can improve at all. Comes around the last corner now, nice and smooth on the power, hits the line, nudges himself up to 5th, but unfortunately it just seems like the full wets are not going to cut it for the qualifying as it stands. Thomas in the Red Bull, a nifty time, a 1:48.4. Again, quite some distance behind the top 3 cars. I am baffled, or slightly baffled, as to why anyone's running in the wet tyres right now. But there we go. So obviously Cota, this is a track we're on now. It's I think it was the first track in the United States, and the 6th different host of the United States Grand Prix. In 2012 it was the first race. The track length is 5.5 kilometers and 20 turns. Well, that record, this could be outdated data, but Valtteri Bottas 2019 apparently with a 1:32.029. Much faster than these guys are able to go in these slippy conditions, that's for sure. Hammy and Unbeaten, happy with the time so far. Curiously coming in for new tyres. Now, in the wet conditions, usually we see drivers tending to fuel a bit heavier, as per the real life qualifying this morning. And fuel a bit heavier, get as many laps in as you can, get familiar with the circuit, and let the intermediate tyres do the thing, not really subject to the same kind of delta difference that the slick tyres have between brand new and slightly used. So curious that they're going in the pits here, maybe doing a lower fuel run, but whatever they're doing is working well. So Smidge in the Ferrari, the only team with both drivers here this weekend is Ferrari, and Smidge also managing to host a lobby. Again, greatly appreciated for that. Thank you, Smidge. And he runs wide there. Into the sharp left-hander, and looking like he's struggling for grip. It'd be interesting to see his tyre information. Maybe just means to get a bit more heat into those tyres, try and get a bit more traction in these wet conditions. We'll see. As it stands, Hammy in first, Unbeaten Sign second, Prime in third with the Alpine. And Prime currently on a fast lap, 1.9 seconds up on his Delta, looking either really confident or really erratic. I can't make my mind up which, as he flies through that complicated left-hander, double left-hander. The back ends are all over the place here for Prime, but he is not giving up. We'll see where the sector 2 time comes to, but that was some impressive driving, just hanging on by the seat of his pants, determined to make an impression on the 2 drivers in front of him. Into the left-hander where Smidge previously ran wide, looking a bit tidier through there, still half a second up it would seem. Let's jump on board with this man on a mission. I want to see these steering inputs, because from the off-board shot he looks like he's really giving some very smooth inputs all the way down the double right. Second to last corner here, dives in, doesn't even need to downshift, and into the final corner, nice and tidy and tight, and on the power early, nice tight line. There he goes into pole position. Incredible drive, incredible lap. that was fun to watch. To be fair, well deserved. And Supernova jumps in front by a good 7/10 of a second. So that was potentially another lap we should have been on board with there. Supernova just brings the Mercedes up out of nowhere. Shame really, because Mercedes in previous seasons are two really good drivers, and we're right up there as he backs out on their cool-down lap. Sign 1.7 seconds up into sector 1. The track getting faster and faster. So this is going to come down to who can post the last flying lap, no, sector 2 time quite off the pace there. The sign, I don't know if he backed out of that. Dark Angel staying well up here. Looking quite tidy as he comes through this complicated little section. Quite an awkward right as you come over the crest of the hill. Even more awkward left as you lose a bit of downforce. And really well driven in these slippery conditions. Sector 3 now, Dark Angel looking to capitalise on this ever drying track faster with each lap, it would seem. Supernova still in first, Prime after his impressive almost rally driver like lap still in second, and Hammy in third, just a 10th separating those two. Dark Angel now hitting the last corner, a little bit tetchy on the acceleration and doesn't improve, stays fifth. The time of 1:47.1. So quite a distinct gap in pace here. It'll be interesting to see who's running what setup. Have some of these guys opted for a more wet-friendly setup, and what will the race bring us? We unfortunately have no weather data to give you for this. But Dark Angel looks like he's on another flying lap here. 7/10 up into sector 1, so let's just stay on board, see if he can improve it all. It could have been that we were just on the outlap before, unless he did a double sort of outlap there to get the tyre temperatures up. Really giving it some now, braking just before the 50-metre board, catches the apex nicely, got to carry as much momentum as he can before this really long straight. Dark Angel for the Ferrari, sector 3, double right-hander. You want to keep it flat if you can, but it's not always that easy. Let's just watch his throttle input there, looks pretty flat to me. Nice and tidy around the second to last corner. And what will this bring? Arman in the Ferrari jumps from 7th to 5th and knocked down to 6th as Hammy almost predictably manages to slot into first, a good 8/10 of a second in front of Supernova in second place. I'm sure Supernova in the Mercedes probably thought he had it for a while there. Thomas being the last man in the Red Bull and slips into the pit, so that's your order we've got for the race today. So here we go, we've got Hammy Little takes first position again. He is here making a point. He's leading the championship, but he wants to know that is not by accident. That is not because people aren't showing up. This man is relentless and determined and could take season 10 of MVP and become one of the title holders for the championship. We've got Supernova in second, Smidge third, Thomas next in the Red Bull, Prime, Dark Angel, unbeaten. I think it was Cammy second to last there, but obviously that man will increase his pace throughout the race. I've no doubts. I've driven against Cammy. He's no slouch. He's just had quite a bit of time off at the start of the season, so these cars, by all accounts, take some getting used to. So let's see what the race brings us when the lights are ready to go. Right now, we've just got a shot of the pit lane. There's going to be no formation laps. We're going to be straight into the racing today. Nice sunny weather, it seems. We've got a good look from Roy. Roy's going back to work, and we've got Dino saying good luck, lads. So all the best to any drivers listening right now. Let's get an entertaining race. It's dry conditions. I'm expecting to see some good racing today. It's a great track for overtaking, and often kicks up a bit of spice due to the awkward nature. It's actually remarkably hard to put together consistent laps here. There's a lot of complicated corner sections, and I believe a lot of the track was based on complex corner sections from other tracks. And there we go, we've got 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5, lights out. And we've got a good start from Hammy, holding first position. Supernova right up the inside. Oh, both of them take each other out. We've got Supernova and Hammy all the way shuffled back to the back of the grid. My camera work was absolutely shocking there, but Thomas in the Red Bull now, and Prime in second after his pretty awesome qualifying lap. He was shuffled down as the track got faster, but here we go. He is now in the top two. Smidge in third, our host for today, and we will see how this race unfolds, but this is a bit of a task now for Hammy, who wanted to really make an impression and has ended up in 8th. I don't know what happened between the two there. And up front we've got Smidge now going into second place, overtaking Prime into the corner where he went off in qualifying when we were watching. But now the Red Bull just trying to nibble away at a bit of a gap, but it's not happening. Smidge is all over this, obviously feeling quite confident for this race. Meanwhile, we've got the two favourites, which would have been Hammy and Supernova, in 8th and 6th respectively. But this is going to be an interesting race between the top three. I feel all staying quite close together. We're going to have DRS soon. That'll keep the pack quite close together. Sign obviously really needs to dump a little bit of his ERS, try and get caught up to the cars in front, but he's already gone through quite a bit there. So let's just see if Sign can put in some consistent laps. Techno, the other Red Bull, down in 8th now, as Hammy has come up to 7th. This could be an interesting battle between the Mercedes and Williams drivers. See if they can claw their way up through the grid. Next in line, 5th, is Cammy, man coming back to reserve. Probably feeling pretty good there in the mid-pack today. Hopefully he enjoys himself and manages to keep his throttle inputs pretty good. But Cammy already looking really racy here, putting an attack on Prime and Sign, as all three of them break really nicely. This is what I love about this league. We get some really close racing. Meanwhile, Supernova joining the back of the pack. Hammy not too far behind. This is a good race here, all the way up for 3rd position, would you believe? We've got half the grid racing for 1 position here. So Sign doing a good job, keep his head. It's a bit of an underdog, his Sign. I mean, the more and more I watch, I realise he's very consistent. He posts good points, good positions each week. Got a lot of great pace, and we've got Prime behind him. Cammy still in the mix in fifth, sorry, and Supernova in sixth. Hammy's still in seventh. The driver's having quite a hard time here to break out of this bit of a train. I think it's a DRS train at this point. Interesting to see the use of ERS from all these drivers. One in particular, I won't mention any names, is doing very well with their ERS and looking pretty confident. Smidge and Thomas in the battle for first and second. It's only a small gap back to Sign, but he is managing to step out in front of Prime, so the battle now is for fourth position. Cammy, Hammy and Supernova, they all really need to get on with this now. And here we go for first place. Smidge, our host for the evening, takes the lead. He'd probably been threatening that for some time, as Thomas stays right on his back doors and hoping he can hang on in the DRS as we go into the first part of the race. Meanwhile, Prime, Hammy, Supernova all fighting between themselves. This is going to be a great race, I've no doubt. Some really good drivers here. Hammy up to fourth. First race in and absolutely smashing it. Mr. Consistency, I will call him from now on, because he was probably my closest race rival for a good period of time, and yeah, it was frustratingly consistent then as well. So hats off to that man in the McLaren standing in today for Roy and Sanjay. So lap 4 now, close battle still for fourth place. Cammy leading the way, Prime in fifth, Hammy is sixth, Supernova in seventh. This is how difficult it is. Even the fastest two guys in qualifying are actually struggling to get round the reserve driver today. So meanwhile, back at the front, the Red Bull and the Ferrari are swapping positions. We'll keep an eye on these guys and flip between these two battles. Smidge getting really close to the back of Thomas there, but really good racing between these. This is what we really like to see. And very hard to race this close and not have an accident, has to be said. Smidge lining up ready for the big long straight. He's going to get a dose of DRS as they come down here. So are we expecting another overtake, or is he going to leave it till later in the lap? Let's see. The Red Bull looking really fast. Wow, the Red Bull looking very fast there. The Ferrari couldn't touch him even with the DRS open. So could it be that Thomas is playing some games with this new ERS feature on the F1 24 game and capitalising on the use of his battery power there, just to keep Smidge behind in the obvious overtaking sectors? Let's see if he can do it again as they come round this tight left-hander. Another long straight. Let's see what kind of impact the Ferrari has on the Red Bull. Catching, looks like he's going to take a run, as he just left this for later in the lap so that Thomas can't have another attack. And there we go, lovely manoeuvre there by Smidge. Into the left-hander, into the double rights, particularly tricky section for traction around here. Both cars staying within the white lines and absolutely nailing it. Techno meanwhile has a penalty down in 8th. The battle here is, well, swapped around. We've got Hammy has managed to claw his way up to 4th, and Prime all gone in front of Cammy, but it's still a close race. These guys are probably having a whale of a time. So it just goes to show you don't need numbers to have good racing, you just need a few good drivers, and that's what we've got here. So great for you guys. So Hammy without DRS, under pressure from the 3 cars behind, no doubt, but holding his nerve and keeping the other guys behind. Smidge, Thomas, this ding-dong battle at the front could keep going for some time. And it's all going to be about the pit stop strategy at some point. Tyres, we've got Sign actually on the hards, the only car on the hard tyre, so we would expect to see most people in around about the same lap. Or is someone going to take a gamble from lower down the field, get in early, aim for an undercut? The positions are so close, but then you've got to consider how important is it to have track position on this circuit, because there is every opportunity to overtake if you can keep the car facing the right way. Supernova hounding Hammy now. So these were the 2 fastest drivers in the qualifying, so we would obviously expect them to be coming through, albeit in slightly different conditions. Dark Angel takes a 3-second. Hard enough with these guys to stay in the mix, but you've got to really try your best not to get penalties, and that goes for all of these guys in the fight from 1st to 7th as it stands. The 2 lagging behind a Dark Angel in the other Ferrari, and of course Techno in the Red Bull. Hammy close to the back of Prime, really probably feeling like he can have a go at first position in this race. There's not a massive amount of time to lose here. There's still 21 laps to go, so it wouldn't be out of the question for Hammy to claw his way up the field, even considering the nearly 5-second gap now between Prime in front of him and Unbeaten up the road. It won't be any mean feat, but he's having a go nevertheless. Who has got DRS? Of course it's Hammy, and he is going to hope he can get to the bottom of this straight, get the corner perfect, get the exit perfect, and try to gap arguably the slower drivers behind, but we will see, because Supernova slipped in right behind him into 5th. There's every chance he could have got away, but until that happened, the Mercedes isn't going to let this go easily. Quite interesting to watch the ERS usage of both drivers. I suppose it's not going to really matter with the format right now if I mention where they're at, but Hammy certainly doing well with his, being quite economical despite staying ahead of Supernova with DRS behind on the long straight. That's very impressive, and Supernova has taken a good chunk out of his battery as well, just trying to keep up with that man in the fast Williams. So as it stands, we're at 4.7 seconds, so Hammy already having taken 2/10 out of Sign ahead in 3rd. Sign, however, running on the harder tyre, still within shouting distance of the top 2, so that will be interesting. If it comes down to a 1-lap pit stop, which I imagine it probably will be, then Sign is going to be in a very strong position on the medium tyre and the lighter fuel load. So Prime now down in 7th, quite a surprise because he was looking pretty racy for this weekend. Cammy still staying nicely in the mix. Meanwhile, 1st position back to the Ferrari. Thomas in the Red Bull. Sign hot on the heels of Thomas as well. The hard tyres now potentially equalised with the mediums. Does this show that Sign's carrying a little bit of extra pace to the 2 in front, or has the tyre crossover happened much earlier than we thought on lap 7? I would, judging by the previous races, you like 8 or 9, the soft tyre would tend to start going off, so I'd be surprised if the hard tyre is much faster than medium at this point in the race, but who knows? There's that many compounds to choose from. So, Sign absolutely hounding Thomas. Hammy, having lost a little bit of time, his gap now at 5.1 seconds. So the top three starting to walk away. No idea why that is. Supernova's already out of DRS, but Cammy is still in this little mix. He's probably having a great night, so well done to Cammy. Thomas really putting the pressure on Smidge, so it seems that like whoever's in first position really just can't edge away. It's very hard with this with the DRS. Two big long DRS zones. Even if unless you can pull out that second gap in the tight technical section, and if you can do that, you've probably got quite a downforce heavy setup, and then so even if you can do that, you're going to suffer on the straights anyway. Oh, and absolute anarchy, all three cars coming together. Smidge capitalises, keeps going in his, but I don't know who's got what damage here. Smidge front one looks okay to me. Thomas as well, and let's have a look. Looking for a better camera angle, please. Yeah, the Haas Sign, unfortunately, clear damage to his front wing. We'll see how much difference that makes. I don't think it makes as much difference on this game as it has in previous titles, but it will be interesting to see if he can hang on to the two cars in front. And we don't really know if they're carrying any damage either. It just doesn't appear that way on the camera. Oh yeah, no, the Williams Hammy, he seems to be missing an end plate too. So Hammy, having worked hard for up to second position, somehow got caught up in that absolute disaster, and now with car damage, Thomas in the Red Bull, his front wing looks a little bit healthier than the other two cars around him, and hence putting a lot of pressure on Hammy as it stands. But meanwhile, Smidge, nice 2.2 second gap. Sunday Cruise, after having sorted out the lobby, invited everyone in, just being an absolute legend, now just decides, well, you know what, while I'm at it, I'm just going to walk away with the lead of the race for now as well. And still absolute ding-dong battles between the Williams and Red Bull. Sign clinging on as well. Supernova well within DRS. This has become a fight for third, running all the way down for seventh. So this really, I can't even keep up with this. Like who is where, was where they're going to be. Meanwhile, Hammy just absolutely laying it on. But it's just Smidge really as he dives into the pit. Let's have a look. What tyre? I imagine this is going to be a one stop going on to the hard. Wants to finish off the race, didn't want to get undercut. And we've got Hammy in the pit too, and Dark Angel in the pit. So let's see how this comes out. Obviously Unbeaten's going to go a bit longer. This man is in a great position. Apart from the damage to his front wing, it'll be interesting to see if any of these guys actually take a new front wing, because that's quite a lot of time extra in the pit, and this is a really close race. And surprisingly, the Haas is being able to hang on, despite missing that end plate, is able to hang on to the Red Bull, which doesn't seem to have any damage at this point. Supernova now up in third, so when everyone has done their tyre stop, we will see where the grid shapes up. The next 3 cars have hit the pit lane now, so let's see where the grid shakes up once everybody gets back on the track. That leaves just Techno, Prime and Unbeaten yet to come into the pit, so it'll be interesting to see, because Prime was sort of in the mix. Obviously he's carrying his penalty. He's probably hoping for a safety car, but that's unlikely with the small number of drivers we've got this weekend. So it's going to be very interesting to see where these 3 cars come out carrying the old tyres. 11 laps in on the medium for Techno, same for Prime and Unbeaten. So Unbeaten obviously going to go a bit longer on these hard tyres, hoping for some extra pace as he comes in. So who do we think's in the lead now? I think Hammy, I think once all said and done, he should come out quite out, but obviously Smidge was leading the race as they went into the pit, and he's only 12 seconds behind the leader, so Smidge comfortably should slot into first position once the top 3 take the pit stops. Quite an interesting race so far, but quite interesting how the top 3 haven't yet boxed despite all the other cars having come in. Are they going to go more for something like an overcut perhaps? Really, the Alpine and Red Bull thinking the mediums might last longer than we think, or might have a better pace than we think, but as it stands, Prime comes into the pits off his mediums and Techno follows shortly behind. And here we go, let's keep an eye on Smidge coming down the main straight now. Second place, only second place, because Unbeaten is still out there on his hard tyres. We'll be hoping for something interesting to happen, no doubt, as well. It would be nice to get a cheeky little safety car in here. That might shuffle him to the top of the grid. I imagine that'd be something like a 10-second stop with a 10-second loss rather than 20-second or so loss, if he is able to get a safety car at any point. But it is unlikely, I think, on this circuit with this number of drivers and the settings being set to a reduced safety car. Thomas in the Red Bull, 5 seconds back on Smidge, but meanwhile the midfield race continues. Hammy lagging a little bit behind Supernova. Let's have a look. Did anyone manage to change their front wing and all that? It looks like they have. I think Thomas there had a bit of damage to his front wing, so that looks like that's been swapped. So that'll be explain why there's this big gap here, I think, from Supernova being 5 seconds down. I think that big 3-way ding-dong has caused quite a lot of damage, and the guys have opted to get it fixed in the pit lane. Well, I've managed to get some sound on for myself. Hopefully you guys weren't missing out on the engine sound in the stream. I don't think so, but I've got it now. So, Thomas, 4th position, just 0.4 of a second or so behind Supernova. Smidge 11 seconds back on sign now. He is decreasing that margin ever more, to the point it won't even matter if there's a safety car. Speaking of which, we had a yellow flag. It would have been nice to see where that was. We'll put the track map on for the next incident, but we go up to Unbeaten. We might be able to see a little bit of the drama that unfolded in that area. It's a little yellow marker there on the track map, whatever that means. Speed trap, probably, I imagine. So, Supernova in 4th, the closest car to the driver in front right now, putting a lot of pressure on the Red Bull, both with nice shiny new looking wings, back to racing properly, and Hammy still in this. I mean, this, you've got to really appreciate how closely matched these drivers are, and really enjoy the racing. Supernova all over the back of Thomas. Really just clean professional racing. It's great to see these guys a couple of tenths apart all the time. Hammy having caught up to the back now as well of the Mercedes. Cammy, unfortunately, the McLaren has fallen off a bit. I don't know if that was down to a mistake or what, but let's see if he can claw back up to the cars in front while they have their little battle and potentially throw each other offline. But meanwhile, Cammy is sat outside the DRS and probably suffering for a bit of pace because of that. And unfortunately, I think with the way the DRS works now, it's maybe not going to be as easy to just, having saved a bit, just to dump a bit of energy to catch back up as what it might have been in previous years. But either way, holding his own, great showing really. I imagine he might have put a bit of practice in the build up to the week, and it'd be great if we could see more of Cammy in the races going forward. So, Supernova right on the back of the Red Bull, and Hammy all over him as well. This is a really close battle between these three. Cammy, meanwhile, really pushing his luck to try and catch up to the fight in front, and receives a 3-second penalty for his efforts, which is a bit disappointing, no doubt, for that man. But Sainz comes into the pit, so we'll see where he feeds back into all this. And what I'm most interested is to see what kind of lap times the Haas driver will be able to do when he gets going. Smidge looking nice and comfortable out there in the lead. All the drivers now on new tyres. The only one on a different strategy is Sainz, who has opted for the medium tyre now, but he is going to hit this race with some pace when he gets back out there. So let's see what the Haas can do. 0.5 seconds behind the Ferrari of Dark Angel. Sainz not carrying any penalties at this point, so nothing to lose for the drivers in front, the three drivers in front of him. Everything to lose for Sainz, because he's opted for this strategy, which has actually put him into a bit of traffic. So I usually quite like the hard tyre to soft tyre. It just sort of throws you out of sequence with everyone else's pit stop. Obviously the danger is you can end up a part of someone else's battle on new and sort of warm tyres, but of no concern to Sainz as he flies around the Ferrari and heads up into second. So now, with surprise no track limits for top few, right? Yeah, well, Dino says he's surprised there's been no track limit penalties for the top few drivers. So, well, this could be a game issue, but it's a case of hate the game, not the player, isn't it? If they have found the areas where they've been able to go off track and not actually get any penalties, then hell, rules are meant to be bent, I guess, not broken. Absolute madness between these three. Hammy up into second place, Thomas third, Supernova in fourth. Dino sat in the YouTube chat when he really should be on this track causing some havoc, don't you think, my friend? The Red Bull of Thomas all over the back of Hammy. Gonna have a little pop here as they come on the long downhill into the sharp left-hander and the quite tricky and intricate final sector of the lap. What's really impressive though in all of this is Smidge just out in front. I don't know if he's just able to keep increasing this lead already at 5.1 seconds to the next three cars. Is that because he's kept out of the fight that is happening between the Red Bull, the Williams and Supernova, or is that just because the man is lightning fast here today? Hammy shuffled down to third now. It's just gonna, if it carries on like this, it's gonna come down to the last lap, and who plans best here, because the pace is awfully similar between these three cars. Cammy having sort of left the fight for now, but still holding his own pace-wise. Got within, he was above 3 seconds earlier, and already having taken 3/10 out of that, are due to the fact, I think, that cars ahead are having such a battle, and that's probably costing them a lot of time. And I often wonder in times like this, you don't just kind of identify the fastest driver and just follow them. Hit the DRS, follow them around, catch first place, then have your fight. But right now, all three of them are fighting for second position. Sign, let's keep an eye on him, because he's 5.3 seconds behind, but on this medium tyre, it'll be interesting to see if he can take some time out. Cammy already out, so we said 5.4 to begin with. It's down potentially below 5 seconds. No, little bit of a wobble there as he came through the time left-hander. Hammy, he lands 3 seconds as well now. Track limits, so there you go, Dino. More confirmation to the fact of what you said, but in his efforts, he's got a 3-second penalty, but managed to take it 3/10 out of the time in first position. So that's probably very frustrating for this man. No more pit stops left to do unless it happens to be a safety car. Thomas, he's going to hound him and hustle him all the way to the end of the race. Dark Angel and the other Ferrari slots himself into 8th and 9th. A bit of a battle here between another Red Bull and another Ferrari. We'll just let those guys go at it at the front, because you know, it takes just as much skill to race here. It's interesting to see this battle between two guys of what seem to be pretty similar pace. As Techno and the two new guys to the league. Hopefully they're not too disappointed with the attendance figures for this weekend. We've got Hammy having shuffled behind the Red Bull again. Both cars slowly catching up to Smidge, but he's really in control of this race. He doesn't have to stress now. There's only 9 laps to go. All Smidge has to do is keep his head. Hammy's obviously carrying a penalty, so same with Supernova. But what's really nice to see is the fact that Hammy, despite being so far ahead in the championship and his main rival, URL Ethan, not being here this weekend, it's nice to see that he's still really going for it. He doesn't need to be a part of any of this. All he needs to do is finish. He could just find a little spot out on the track and just keep it tidy, score some free points and have at it. But instead, he has been absolutely mixing it with Thomas in the Red Bull and Supernova in the Mercedes all the way from the start of the race, where they've actually fought through the grid and taken some big chances. Unfortunately, at the cost of a few time penalties, and Prime slips into the pits for a new set of mediums. Not really sure why. I don't know if Prime has ABS, but the graphic there showed a massive double front lockup into the first corner, so that won't do him any good. I'm not sure what happened to Prime now. I wonder if he suffered a bit of damage in the meantime, but in all of this, Cammy's found his way back up to the mid-pack into 5th position. Hammy, ever on a mission. He's got the gap down to Smidge to 4 seconds, but Smidge really doesn't need to do too much, does he? Even at 10 laps at 4/10 of a second, Hammy cannot catch him. All Smidge has to do is keep his head. Just keep pumping in the consistent lap times. And the Ferrari could be home free. Hammy not giving up. Gets the time delta down to 3.9 seconds. He might be looking to have one of these penalties removed. Nobody can be sure. Just because the computer says you have a penalty doesn't mean it's so. Thomas, absolute legendary fight between these two drivers. And of course Supernova, who somehow has now slipped back, so had a bit of a moment for himself somewhere. Go on board with Cammy as he hits turns 3 to 5. Really enjoying it. Supernova takes a 3-second penalty now, further securing Hammy's points. All Hammy wants now is probably for Thomas in the Red Bull to get a penalty, and then they're all on an even footing. So let's see what happens, because every driver except Sain and Thomas now carrying a penalty, presumably all of them for track limits. So here we are with Cammy. Good driver, very consistent. Hits the 75 metres maybe, brakes lovely on the apex, decent exit, using all of the track, every single curb of the circuit, which is interesting but effective it would seem. He is actually gaining time on the cars in front through that section. I like that line. Absolutely flat out through these two turns, up to the second to last corner, little lift, little downshift, little slide from the back end, down into third gear for the last corner, early on the power, maybe a bit too early as he had to correct a little bit of oversteer. Other than that, great. But meanwhile, from behind, unbeaten Sain on the medium tyres probably capitalised on Cammy's little moment coming out of the last corner, and using the traction of the brand new mediums was able to stay on front. But Cammy's not letting go easy despite being on older, harder tyres. He is not impressed that the Haas has gone past him. Meanwhile, Prime takes a run off the circuit, I assume, and let's see, is that going to be a yellow flag, or is that going to be a safety car? It looks like a yellow flag at the minute, but unfortunately there's no one down there to tell us what's happened. So yeah, DNF for Prime unfortunately, but everyone's still going for it here. Curious, because it appears by the track map that the Alpine is still driving around the circuit, just very slowly. So has Prime in fact left the session? Oh no, and the car's disappeared off the circuit now. So back to the racing. Hammy has reduced the gap to smidge to 2.8 seconds. There's just 5 laps to go. It's probably possible for him to catch him. Obviously he's carrying the time penalty of 3 seconds, but what's really interesting is whether Hammy can pull Thomas along for the ride, and these two can get in a battle, a three-way battle for the end of the race. Hammy, having been passed by Sain, will not let him go. So curiously, yet again, I think it's not the first time I've noticed this, but the hard to medium hasn't been quite as effective in the last part of the race as what I would anticipate it would be. And I don't know if the Haas has any damage or anything, but ultimately you can't shake the McLaren on the harder tyre, older harder tyre. He cannot shake Cammy here. The DRS obviously helping the McLaren along quite substantially. Racing just died down a little bit. Everyone probably nursing the tyres at this point, trying to get them to the end of the race without a spin. Hammy will be happy enough with his position. He's taken a handful of points over Ethan, who isn't here. The rest of the guys involved in their championship battles, happy enough. They're all taking home some points where their rivals are not for non-attendance this week. And Cammy just probably having a great time, having had a nice tidy race and really been involved in the action throughout. the other Ferrari of Dark Angel not having the best time out, but I don't know. Penalties wise, everyone's just on 3 seconds. So from the start of the race, Smidge. Well, actually, a few of the drivers having gone up 2 positions. Sign, Cami, Techno, and Smidge all having gone up 2 positions. The biggest loser, obviously, Prime. We're not totally sure what happened to him. Seemed to have missed that off the stream, unfortunately. Dark Angel takes another penalty, running wide. He's going for it, but does that mean? I think that means he's on 6 seconds of penalties now, but sod it. He's still in the points. You may as well have a good time. Let's see what you can do. Tight left-hander, long straight now, up and over the hill, taking lumps of time out of Techno. Oh, or was an attraction zone. It actually takes a lot of time out of the Red Bull, but it seems that Techno's got far less downforce than the Ferrari, and was burning his battery because the time crept up as they came towards the later stage of the straight, somewhere towards that. Speed trap. Dark Angel having a bit of a wobble, but really pushing the limits, but having a great time, which is really what this is all about. Hami's still in second. He has really actually pulled that time down onto the Ferrari of Smidge. So Smidge can't afford to be too complacent now, despite what I said earlier. He is going to have to hang it out there. The last thing he wants really is the Williams closing in on him, because although he's carrying a 3-second penalty, there's no guarantee that those penalties will stay. So what Smidge has to do now is stay out of the DRS of the Williams. Thomas having given up the fight, which this could be somewhat strategic, because I say that just as I say that, absolutely hammers it while Hammy was regenerating his battery. Thomas flies down the inside. Is that somewhat welcome by the man in the Williams, perhaps? Sometimes it is better to be attacking than to be attacked, especially from a strategic point of view. So, be interesting to see if Hammy can come back in there to grab that second place back. Meanwhile, the rest of the grid quite spread out, so the closest battle we've got right now is certainly between these two. But there is a lot of pressure from the Red Bull and from the Williams on the Ferrari in first place. But they do need to not battle too hard. If they battle with each other too hard, they can kiss first place goodbye. Who is the quicker of the two cars, we don't know, but either way, when Hammy went to get a little bit of battery power back, Thomas really just saw a gap, and in true Red Bull Verstappen fashion, decided to send it down the inside a little bit more cleanly than Verstappen would have done, in my humble opinion. Hammy, nice on the traction, absolutely nails it coming out of there. Not even wringing the neck out of his battery, but obviously having DRS, that's more than enough to stay in front of the Red Bull. Now, can he make a gap in this technical third sector of the track? All of this overtaking not getting them much closer to Smidge. They've maybe gained a 10th overall, but Smidge just nice and consistent. Doing a great job. Hammy just really impressive this season, just hanging it out, giving it full beams, coming to the track totally prepared. Unfortunately, I mean, suffered these penalties, but we'll see how it goes. And Cammy takes another 3 seconds, but again, he will just be having the time of his life. Oh, hopefully. I mean, putting words in his mouth a bit there, but I imagine he'd be having a good time. I know I would be if I was out there today with these guys. Great drivers. That Ferrari having pitted. Is that I feel like that's 2 stops, yeah. So another stop, obviously, for the Ferrari here. I don't know. I suppose there's a point up for grabs here, isn't there, for the fastest lap? So everyone being inside the top 10, that means they could have, anyone could have a little pop at the fastest lap if it gets them another point. From Dark Angel's perspective, there's probably not a lot to lose as he was running closer to the back for reasons not yet understood. Hammy having got it within a second now of Smidge. Just 7/10 separating the top 2 cars, and this is interesting. So, penalties aside, unknown penalties aside, let's see who wins the on-track battle now. Smidge has done a great job. He kept the gap there. He kept the gap to the cars behind while they were having their little battle, but Hammy, once released from the clutches of the Red Bull and able to get in clean air, has managed to close up right on the back of the Ferrari, and with only a few corners to go, well, with about half a lap to go, this is going to be very interesting. We're already coming down to the big sharp left-hander before the long straight with the speed trap, so this is going to be all about traction, and Hammy's been especially good out of this corner. But a little bit of wheel spin there, and Smidge totally unflappable, but also totally like on full flaps with his back wing. Hammy just breezes past. And that could be the move that seals the on-track race now. Smidge having driven such a clean race, this really, if he keeps his stuff together, he takes the win officially on race day. Smidge takes the win. Hammy wins the on-track battle. Some kudos in that, but ultimately it's going to come down to who got the points. Now, anyone listening, you're free to decide what was more important, winning over the line by Hammy or Smidge, who takes the race win on the day. Hammy shuffled all the way down to 3rd. That puts Thomas in the Red Bull in 2nd. So the top 3 are the Ferrari, Smidge, Red Bull, Thomas. Williams 3rd with Hammy. Unbeaten Sign with his inverted strategy ends up in 4th position. Great racing from all here. Sign up actually 3 places. I was just trying to find that information. So Supernova was down 3, unfortunately, from his 2nd place qualifying. Cammy, welcome back, my friend. Good to see you, and well done on completing the race and really mixing it with those fast guys. So I think it was Prime and Techno, the last 2 positions on the grid today. A bit easier to actually see what's going on with fewer drivers. This might be a thing. So really good battle from really good racing. So I'll see if anyone wants to join chat. Obviously Smidge taking it in the Ferrari, Smidge having hosted the thing. Now we'll just see if either Smidge or Hammy, or Hammy, or I think it was it Thomas we had in 3rd? Yeah, oh sorry, Thomas. So Smidge obviously first. I keep thinking Hammy was 2nd, but he was devoted in the race. So sorry about this. This is a bit full on. I've got to try and get the results there as well. So we'll just see if any of these guys want to interview, and if not, we will head off. Oh, we could also ask Cammy if he wants to see how his race back was. It'd be quite interesting to know, wouldn't it? Ah, here we go. So we've got one taker. We'll invite Cammy along to the party, see what his take was on that race. I'm quite interested to see. Oh, it won't let me invite him. Why is this? I'm on the wrong thing. There we go. Invite players. Sorry about this, so unprofessional. But then I never claimed to be professional. I don't know who else we need in here, but let's have a look. See who comes along. Here he is, the man. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
How was that race then? The first race back in a long time.
It was actually alright considering I was like 2 seconds back on time trial.
Yeah.
I was quite happy I was managing to stay in the fight for sort of the first half.
Okay, was that 2 seconds back on the guys here today?
Yeah, on the guys today.
Wow. So you did really well, and you just managed to mix it. Was that a bit? Does it help with the DRS on this track to stay with them, or are you just feeling particularly good when it got dry?
No, definitely. The DRS helped. But I was also sort of helped by just getting experience as you kept driving throughout the race.
Yeah.
Getting used to it again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's quite a lot of laps, isn't it? So by the time you come to the end, you know really what you should have done at the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a good thing. Oh well, great, Duvet. I'm happy, and as long as you enjoyed it, that was the main thing. Are you going to be in the next race?
Next race, yeah. I should be able to make it.
That's good news.
What's the track next week?
I don't know. I'm just trying to do two things at once. I can't even do one thing at once effectively. So like trying to do both. It'll be in announcements, right? So there's a calendar. So we have just done Austin, and it's Brazil actually. So following this weekend's wild real life racing. So I'm sure it'll be just as wild if this is anything to go by. It's really interesting with the grid with MVP. Obviously, it's only half the size, but everyone's very closely matched on pace. I don't know if you found the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Especially sort of the people in the midfield and there's a group at the front. I felt like a group in the midfield and a group at the back. So it's good that nobody sort of really left it by themselves.
Yeah, definitely. But you managed to actually. It was Hammy and Supernova ended up a bit out of position with the after the incident early on in the race, and you managed to hang with them for a long time, which was great to see.
I enjoyed the battle with them, and also I can't remember the guy's name in the Alpine. He's not been there since I've joined back.
In the Alpine. Oh wait, let me see who. It's not Hammy. No. So he's in the Williams. Sorry, it's Prime. Embid Prime. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So he finished last. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened. He had the DNF somewhere along the road, but I didn't catch it.
Yeah, a couple of good battles with Hamdi and also Ethan unbeaten sign.
Oh right, nice. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because we've got two Ethans now. One of them wasn't here this weekend. Unfortunately. So, all right. Well, thanks very much for your time, mate. Appreciate you popping on, and hopefully see you in Brazil.
Yeah, should see you next week. Right. Cheers,
man. Yeah, man. No, good to speak to you. Bye. And that is all, I think, unless I missed someone else joining the party. But yeah. Just me and your good souls that are listening. And that's all for MVP and here at Cota. We will see you next week at Brazil. Thanks for watching.